Never assume your silence is working on her the way you think it is. A lot of guys go no contact, cut her off, and sit there expecting her to come crawling back. But here's the brutal truth. Your silence might not be affecting her at all. In fact, it might even be making things worse. You see, there's this idea floating around that if you just disappear, she'll suddenly realize your worth, miss you like crazy, and come chasing. But what nobody tells you is that silence without strategy is just absence. An absence can make someone forget just as easily as it can make them miss you. So today we're going deep into why your silence isn't hitting the way you want. And more importantly, what actually works if you want to flip the script and make her chase you again. Now, let's start with the basics. Silence in relationships is often sold as this magical weapon. Like the moment you stop texting, stop calling, and vanish, she's supposed to start spiraling, wondering where you went and begging for your attention. But real life doesn't always play out like that. In fact, sometimes it has the opposite effect. Think about it. When someone stops giving you energy, your brain starts adjusting. At first, there might be confusion, maybe even a little bit of panic, but over time, your mind starts rewiring. You start filling that space with other things, other people, other sources of attention. And that's exactly what happens when you go silent on her without creating any emotional tension or curiosity. She adapts. And once she adapts, she's no longer in emotional pain. She's in emotional peace. And peace, my friend, is the death of desire. Desire comes from tension, uncertainty, and curiosity. Silence alone, that just gives closure. But let's get even deeper. Women emotionally are wired to survive and adapt quickly. If she senses you're pulling away, her instincts don't scream, "Chase him." They say, "Protect yourself. Move on, find new stability." So while you're sitting there thinking your silence is building pressure, what's really happening is that she's building a life where you no longer play a part. And this is why so many guys fail with no contact. They break the silence expecting her to be waiting at the door, only to find out she's already emotionally checked out. Why? Because there was no emotional trigger during the silence to keep her invested. You didn't create waves. You just vanished. And vanishing makes things too easy for her mind to settle. So what's the actual game here? It's about creating controlled emotional spikes while staying distant. Instead of going completely dark and predictable, you need to sprinkle in subtle reminders that make her question her current path. Maybe she stumbles on a photo of you looking better than ever. Maybe a mutual friend casually mentions how you're thriving. Maybe she hears that you've been out meeting new people. These little signals plant seeds in her mind. And suddenly your silence isn't just absence, it's presence without access. And that's powerful because now instead of feeling peace, she feels uncertainty. She starts wondering, is he really moving on? Is someone else getting his attention? Did I misjudge his value? And those questions trigger emotional tension, the fuel for attraction. Let's not skip over another hard fact. If the emotional bond between you two was already weak before you went silent, then no contact won't magically fix it. In fact, it might break the last thread holding her interest. That's why distance alone isn't enough. You need progress. Visible, undeniable progress that quietly raises your value in her eyes. Because attraction isn't logical and it's primal. It's tied to social proof, status, and perceived value. If she starts sensing that others are noticing your glow up, her mind will automatically start reassessing you. That's how humans are wired. Math, we want what's in demand. So if you're silently evolving, getting fitter, building new social circles, leveling up your lifestyle, and that progress starts leaking into her world, you trigger her competitive instinct. Now, she's not just thinking about you, she's thinking about losing you to someone else. And that's when chasing behavior kicks in. Now, I get it. Some of you might be thinking, but doesn't this sound like playing games? No, it's not games. It's strategy. It's understanding that silence without evolution is just passivity, and passivity doesn't create attraction. Growth does. Women are drawn to men who are in motion, men who are actively leveling up. So instead of sitting around counting days on some no-contact calendar, start counting the ways you're making yourself impossible to ignore. Are you becoming healthier, more confident, more socially connected, more respected? Because every little upgrade you make sends a message. And that message is louder than any text you could send. It says, "I'm not waiting, I'm moving forward." And you might miss out if you stay still. Now here's where things get interesting. Once she starts picking up on these signals, once her curiosity gets piqued, she'll begin to test the waters. She'll stalk your socials, ask mutual friends about you, maybe even drop those subtle texts like, "Hey, how have you been?" or "Just thought of you today." That's her trying to feel you out without risking rejection. And this is where most guys blow it. They get that first sign of attention and immediately flood her with validation, thinking they've won. But what you need to do is respond with calm confidence. Be warm but not needy. Interested but not desperate. You let her feel that while you're open to reconnecting, she's going to have to earn her place in your new reality. That subtle shift is what keeps her chasing, because now you're no longer the guy she left. You're the upgraded version that everyone else is noticing, and she's realizing she might lose out. Timing is key here too. A lot of men ruin their progress by either reaching out too soon or waiting so long that the emotional window closes, the sweet spot. It's when she's already thinking about you, already feeling the tension, but before she fully detaches and resets her emotional baseline. That's when your subtle signals pull her back in. So stop thinking in terms of should I contact her now or later, and start thinking in terms of emotional waves. Pull back, build tension, let curiosity do the work, then respond in a way that deepens the chase. Now here's the grand finale. The part that separates the guys who get real results from those who stay stuck in endless loops. It's not just about getting her attention again. It's about making her feel that if she doesn't act soon, she will permanently lose access to the upgraded version of you. That's the trigger that flips mild curiosity into full-on pursuit. Because once she senses that her window to win you back is closing, emotions spike. She stops overthinking and starts chasing. But this only works if you stay disciplined. If you get her back into your orbit and immediately fall back into old patterns, over-exting, over-validating, being too available, you kill the very tension that reignited her attraction. So when she reaches out, you stay grounded, warm but firm, inviting but not desperate. You make it clear that she's stepping into your upgraded reality, not dragging you back into the past. That's the final frame shift. That's how you keep her chasing, keep her invested, and keep yourself in control. Because think about it, every success story you hear about someone winning back their ex, it's never because they begged or ghosted their way into her heart. It's because they became someone new, someone she couldn't ignore, someone who made her question, did I make a mistake? Is he really moving on without me? Is someone else going to get the new version of him? And when that fear creeps in, logic goes out the window. Attraction takes over. That's when you win. Not because you went silent, but because your silence was filled with visible progress, growing value, and rising social proof. That's when your absence becomes presence. That's when you go from forgotten to unforgettable. So now the real question is, are you going to sit there counting days, hoping silence magically works? Or are you going to start stacking wins, building tension, and becoming the version of yourself that she can't help but chase? This is your turning point. And if you want to know exactly what to say when she finally reaches out, the words that make her chase even harder, that's what I'm breaking down in the next video. Subscribe now so you don't miss